You are now watching, By the Minute, where we highlight unsolved, unidentified and missing cases across the nation. Today we head to Colorado. BLACKHAWK, Colorado. September 30, 1952. A man on a hunting trip would come across the unidentified remains of a woman, and today, we ask our viewers for help on her identity. For those that find their fun amongst nature, the fall is a huge time for those who hunt. It was in late September where a man would be on a trip with his fellow companions, and in the woods he would stumble upon an area that would soon become a crime scene to investigators. In a gravel pit, a man would see a charred log. Under the charred log was a body, and he would immediately alert authorities. Authorities were called to the area approximately 100 yards from Highway 119, and about 25 feet from Clear Creek. Here they would find our Jane Doe. Medical examiners would not be able to determine cause of death, and they were also unable to determine her identity. What they could conclude was that she had faced blunt force trauma to her head. Authorities have worked to find a name for our Jane Doe, and finding her identity can help us get answers on who did this to her. Police have had artists create a drawn and sculpted rendition of our Jane Doe, as you can see here. She is described as a female, 30 years of age, 5 feet 7 inches, and had brown hair. She also possessed a strong overbite. Our Jane Doe was found wearing jewelry, as you can see here. Near our Jane Doe's body was also a purse. Inside were items, but particularly was a man's ring without a setting. Authorities have worked for years in order to find our Jane Doe's identity. She has also been referred to as Maria or the Pyre case. If you have any tips about the identity of our Jane Doe, please contact the Gilpin County Coroner's Office. Aurora, Colorado. July 11, 1993. Police would get a call for a young child that was left alone in the car, but upon their arrival they would find something leaking from the trunk. On July 11, 1993, police would be called to 13636 East 14th Avenue. A concerned neighbor saw that a young child was left unattended in a car. Police would arrive to the scene, contact family of the child, and also find that there was blood leaking from the trunk. Authorities would bravely open the trunk and discover that a man was in the back, bleeding and beaten so badly that he was unrecognizable. Medical examiners would determine the man in the back of the vehicle was Tyrone Bennet, 22. Tyrone was from Denver and would graduate from George Washington High School. In school, he was the president of his class, football team captain, also maintained great grades. He would attend Arizona State but would come back home to pursue his dreams to become a firefighter. While in Denver, Tyrone had a female friend and he would babysit the young child. On the day of Tyrone's murder, inside his car, police would find out that Tyrone's cell phone, gun and drugs were missing. Whoever did this to Tyrone took his life and also left a child with a treacherous memory of someone they felt safe with being taken away. Tyrone's family has also continues to mourn their loved one's loss and have kept memories of Tyrone, even though he leaves a space in their heart today. Tyrone had a love for stereos and cars. He restored a car and also won in a competition for his stereo. His parents still have that car today. While the family and friends of Tyrone continue to await justice, let's remind them that they are not alone. There's a community standing with them, bringing awareness. If you have any tips about the murder of Tyrone Bennet, please contact the Metro Denver Crime Stoppers immediately. There is also reward for assistance in this case for up to $2,000. Denver, Colorado. August 11, 1999. Two friends leaving a bar would be followed by assailants who today remain free for their vicious crime. On July 25, 1999, Dario Ibarra-Arguello, 30, and his friend headed to Las Palmas Bar. It was when the two were leaving when tragedy would strike them both. As Dario and his friend were leaving the Las Palmas Bar, another vehicle would drive down the street, directly beside them. It was on 4700 block of Pecos Street, where both friends would realize something was suspicious about this vehicle. The unknown suspect inside the vehicle would then shoot multiple shots inside Dario and his friend's car. Dario and his friend would both be shot and transported to the hospital for their injuries. Unfortunately, Dario would succumb to his injuries on August 11, 1989. Dario went out with his friend to have a great time and would lose his life to a senseless act of gun violence. The suspect that committed this crime must be taken into custody and out of the shadows of our community harboring the secret that they are truthfully a murderer. Help us get tips and justice for Dario. Anyone with information about this case, please contact the Denver Police Department or the Crime Stoppers tip line. There is also a $2,000 reward available and callers are allowed to remain anonymous. One way we can keep our communities safe is by standing up for those who can no longer speak for themselves. Today's age we live in a world where technology is at our fingertips. Data, information and even laughs are a click away. By the Minute News covers unsolved cases across the nation. Our mission is to bring awareness and amplify our victims' voices. Our goal is that our videos reach people who can learn about our victims and help grant our mission. Together we all help keep our communities safe, one click at a time. Join our mission by subscribing to our channel and sharing this video. Someone you know may have tips. Fort Carson, Colorado. April 23, 1994. A man would receive a package that would grant the attention of the ATF. Thomas Livingston, 35, father, and husband, would retire and in his new time he would minister prepare lawnmowers and was also studying to become an auto mechanic at Pikes Peak Community College. It would be a normal afternoon in the Stratmore Hills subdivision and Thomas would be outside chatting with his neighbor, Corporal William Kamer. The two would converse about the sale of a lawnmower before a tragedy would shake the block. Thomas' wife, Mrs. Livingston, would receive a note on the door from the post office. The note let her know that a package was attempted to be delivered to her home multiple times but they were unable to complete the delivery. The package awaited Mrs. Livingston at the post office and she went to retrieve it that morning. As Mrs. Livingston was returning home, her husband would see her and she would let him know about the package for him. Thomas would open the package and an explosion would shake 2 blocks of their neighborhood. Corporal Kamer heard the blast and immediately knew something was wrong and went into action. Authorities were alerted while Corporal Kamer could see that both of his neighbors were injured from the explosion. Mrs. Livingston was sent flying 10 feet, she broke her arms and had severe head injuries. Thomas unfortunately would succumb to his injuries at the scene. Investigators paired with the ATF and went into investigating who could have done this and what was inside the package. The package was able to be transported through multiple mail carriers, Mrs. Livingston and also Thomas. The package would only go off when it was opened. Investigators knew where to begin searching for our suspect. Investigators developed a profile for our suspect and determined that they were extremely familiar with explosions and they would also find that inside the box were all items you would find on a military base. To develop more key details on our suspect, detectives also had to investigate why anyone would want to do this to Thomas and soon they would find a suspect with a vendetta. Police and the Postal Service were also working the investigation together as the person who did this could have taken the lives of more innocent victims if the package was defective. Tips came in that would get investigators a description. Our suspect 35 to 40 years old, 5 feet, 8 inches tall, 155 to 160 pounds, of slender to medium build, having light brown hair with blonde highlights, hazel eyes and was wearing glasses. Investigators were also looking for a man that was around 65 years old that was seen inside the post office at the same time of the first suspect. Detectives dug into Thomas's life and would discover that someone may have had a vendetta against him or his relationship. Thomas and his wife were in an interracial relationship and detectives looked into the root of this case being racially motivated. Detectives would also discover that Thomas may have made some enemies. On January 25, 1993, a few months before Thomas's murder, he was involved in an altercation that followed in an arrest. Thomas and another man were involved in a dispute where Thomas would shoot at the man, missing him but breaking his windshield to his car. Thomas was arrested and sentenced to probation for the incident. The man that Thomas had an altercation with was in the military and had access to the equipment used that took Thomas away from his family. Investigators have worked tirelessly and need tips from the community to get justice for Thomas, and give a Colorado community peace after this tragedy that has also become a part of their memory. Please, if you have any tips about this case, please contact the El Paso County Sheriff's Office. Commerce City, Colorado. November 23, 2006. A transient man needs help being identified. Today we ask our viewers if they may know of his name. Police were called to a remote field near Interstate 270 and 64th Avenue. At the scene they would find a deceased male on top of vegetation. The area that our victim was found is a highly known area for transients. With that being said, police need help finding out our Jane Doe's identity. Authorities have released a clay model rendition of what our Jane Doe looks like. He is described as an African American or Hispanic male between the ages of 24 to 27 years old and 5 feet 3 inches. From the scene, detectives were able to recover a belt buckle and a size 8.5 boot. The victim was also wearing a denim jacket with 3 distinct patches. One read Colorado Grande Casino, another Cripple Creek and Maggie's Club, Colorado Grande. Someone out there may know who he is or more about him so that we can get answers to his family that may not even know that he's passed. Together we can get answers on his identity. If you may know our Jane Doe or have any tips that could lead into his identity, please contact the Commerce City Police Department. Alamosa, Colorado. February 23, 2011. A young woman returning home from doing laundry would go missing, but one of the many leads into the investigation send detectives to an inmate. Angelica Sandoval, 21, mother, lived at an apartment located at 715 13th Street. It was the night of February 23, 2011, around 11:48 p.m., when officers would be called to Angelica's residence, but Angelica was not there. Angelica's family and friends would talk to police and let them know that Angelica was missing. Earlier that evening, Angelica would go to wash clothes at the laundromat. She would arrive home from doing laundry around 9:50 p.m. Angelica would be taking her laundry from her car back to her home, and in between this time period she would go missing. Authorities have not suspected foul play, as it did not seem there was a force, but she did leave her purse and cell phone at the scene. Detectives continued to learn more about Angelica and would realize she was a recent victim to a crime. In the prior year, that November, when Angelica was sleeping in her apartment with her child, a man snuck in. He would press a pillow against Angelica's face, pointing a gun to her head and demanding money. Angelica would give the intruder the money while he threatened to attack her and assault her. Intruder fled with $200 and flashing gang signs. Angelica bravely contacted the police and was able to recognize the person who did this by their voice and a tattoo on his neck. That person was Jose Luis Meraz. Angelica agreed to testify against Meraz and was set to appear in court for the preliminary trial a week before her disappearance. Jose was held in jail for prior charges when Angelica went missing, but detectives would contact him about if he had any involvement. Jose would deny having any involvement. While police are investigating this lead, they are also continuously investigating. Angelica did the right thing. Someone entered her home, and not only did she stand up for herself, she did for her young child who grows up wondering where their mom is today. Angelica is a white female, 21, 4 feet 11 inches, weighing 105 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. At the taping of this video, she would be 34. Please, if you have any tips about Angelica's whereabouts or tips in this case, please contact the Alamosa Police Department. Durango, Colorado. November 10, 1985. A man passing by on a train would see a horrible scene from his window that authorities would call out the coroner. 38 years later, investigators would have a cold case of sex, money and drugs. It was on the Durango and Silverton narrow-gauge railroad where a passenger would see a decaying body in a truck bed from his window. Authorities were called out to 1400 block of Main Avenue. Our victim was David Tyler, 36, and he co-owned Automatic Transmission Exchange. David was found with his hands tied behind his back and viciously beaten and left to die. Police would work a few leads, but the next month in December another man would lose his life. It was on December 5, 1985, where a few friends would go to their buddy's job to visit him and pick up some alcohol. Dennis Sleater, 24, college student, worked part-time at Junction Creek Liquors, which was located at 2300 Main Avenue. Dennis's friend would stop by the store and would begin looking for Dennis and calling his name. It was unusual that Dennis didn't respond, so they would look inside and see that the cash register was open. His friends continued to call out for Dennis and they would head to the basement of the store and find Dennis dead. Dennis was found lying face down with 2 gunshot wounds to the head. Besides the murders happening so close in time and also proximity, it would take years of investigations and multiple detectives to gather the links that we are able to share today. Allegedly, Dennis and David knew each other, they were drug users and also gay. And if both cases are connected, police do have a suspect. 2 days before David Tyler was killed, he may have attended a party. At the party was a man named Eli Stutzman, an Amish, gay male. One of David's former employees remembers seeing a man that looked like Stutzman at the auto shop days before the murder and said that David and the person were having what seemed to be a serious conversation. Here is the composite of the man. In 2007, authorities would reach out to the former employee to conduct a walkthrough of the repair shop to see if anything triggered his memory. Inside, he remembered that on a wall a homophobic slur was written on the wall in blood and skull fragments were on the floor. Reports would also indicate that people saw a person that looked like Stutzman around the scene of the murder of Dennis Sleater that December. In 1977, Stutzman was looked at as a suspect in the murder of his pregnant wife. She would lose her life in a suspicious barn fire. In 1985, his young son was found dead in a ditch in Nebraska. He told investigators he dropped him there out of fear. And in the late 1980s, Stutzman was convicted of the 1983 murder of his roommate when he used to live in Austin, Texas. Stutzman was sentenced to 40 years, serving 16 and being paroled in 2005. Authorities would continue investigations and also look into the possibility of a serial killer investigation, but in 2007 their suspect would get cold feet. Detectives would reach out to Stutzman and they would obtain DNA and fingerprints. With the investigation getting interest, Stutzman would take his own life that same year. At the scene of Dennis's murder, there was a bloody handprint left. Investigators compared it to Stutzman and it was not a match. Investigators would not depend on just this lead but others that were tips from the community. In 1990, a person would come forward and speak with investigators. They stated 3 local men were involved in the murder of David Tyler. All of the men were heavily involved in the cocaine business and use. The men were allegedly all sexually involved with each other. The person would also reference the blood and message left on the wall. In another report, investigators would speak with a person in 2008, stated that several local men were responsible for David Tyler's murder. They stated the men beat David's head in and referenced the message on the wall. Today both cases remain cold and we ask our viewers for help. If you have any tips, please contact the Durango Police Department. Eagle County, Colorado. May 20, 2002. A pastry chef would be found murdered in a place that rarely sees crime, and her case remains one of the only unsolved cases in the area. Police would get a call for a woman that was shot and laying near a pickup truck on May 20, 2002, around 7 p.m. Authorities would be called to gravel road at the Pando Railroad interchange, at mile marker 157.5, off Highway 24. At the scene they would find a woman laying dead near the back of a Dodge Green Dakota pickup truck. Police were unable to determine her identity, and it would be until May 31st that the public would find out the name of our victim. Our victim was Melba Ginther, 57, lived in Keystone and worked at a bakery as a pastry chef. Melba kept to herself, pretty quiet, but was sweet and people enjoyed her company. On May 20, 2002, Melba would spend her day shopping. She borrowed her friend's green Dodge Dakota pickup truck. Melba would go shopping in Glenwood Springs sometime in the afternoon, but her next stop was in a different location that leaves investigators stumped. As police investigated, they were able to learn more about Melba. Melba was a mother, grandmother, and she was recently divorced. Once she divorced, she would live with her daughter, and the 2 years prior to her death she lived alone and kept to herself in Keystone. Detectives would determine that Melba was also a person that always carried cash, did not use credit cards or checkbook. Throughout the investigation, police would learn that Melba made a stop in Red Cliff at a liquor store to ask for directions. She asked the owner how to get to Camp Hale near where her body was found. Detectives would get leads that would grant them tips into the investigation. Inside the car, detectives found books that would lead investigators to believe Melba may have been involved with practicing witchcraft. Witnesses would also remember that there was a white Dodge pickup parked in Pando Junction, which is the area near where Melba's body was discovered. Witnesses also reported seeing 2 males in the vehicle. Melba wanted to live a peaceful private life. She was taken away as she wanted to spend her day shopping. Her family awaits justice and answers for a mystery that has lived with them for 20 years. Help us get more tips to investigators. Please contact the Eagle County Crime Stoppers. There is a $1,000 reward available in regards to this case. Littleton, Colorado. January 27, 2002. Police are searching for a shooter that took the lives of 3 innocent victims. It was closing time at the AMF Broadway Lanes bowling alley located at 5485 S. Broadway in Littleton. 3 employees were there that night. James Springer, 29, Aaron Galla, 26, and Bobby Zajac, 23. Bobby worked at a different bowling alley and was getting a ride home from James. As the 3 were preparing to leave, Aaron would call her friend at 11:40 p.m. for a ride from work. At 11:55 p.m., Aaron's friend would arrive and would later discover the 3 employees inside dead. Aaron Gallo, Bobby Zajac, and James Springer would all become victims to gun violence in what appeared to be an apparent robbery. Detectives have concluded that around 11:50 p.m., there was a white middle-aged male, with a bald head, wearing a knee-length trench coat seen leaving the bowling alley. The suspect also drove at the time what would be considered a newer model pickup, dark-colored truck, and left the area leaving south. Investigators paired with the FBI and in time with the help of genetic genealogy police would get a lead. In 2021, authorities would search the South Platte River near Interstate 270 and Vasquez Boulevard. Authorities did state that the search was directly related to the 2002 case and would not provide any further details. Investigators do believe that there are people in the community with information about this crime and encourage those to come forward.
For help trying to solve a cold case nearly 20 years old, and now they're offering $30,000 for any information that leads to an arrest. Bobby Zajac, Aaron Galla, James Springer were killed at the AMF Broadway Lanes, the bowling alley, back in January of 2002. Littleton police believe that they are actively looking into the case, now reviewing and retesting evidence. They're using new technology. Some of that evidence was found in a men's restroom, but it's not clear what it was. In a press conference with the FBI, investigators said that they're also interviewing old witnesses and encouraging anyone who might have info to come forward.
We believe people familiar with circumstances surrounding this case remain in our community. Relationships change over time, as do people and their perspectives. It is not too late to come forward.
Police say advancement in genealogy and DNA analysis has led to closure in other cases, but they've not said how. They're hoping this will help in this particular case, but if you do know anything, police do want you to call 720-913-STOP, 720-913-7867.
Investigators are asking that anyone with tips to please contact the FBI Denver's field office or Crime Stoppers. 3 innocent victims are awaiting justice, and their families and friends continue to keep their name and stories in the light. You can remain anonymous, and there is a $30,000 reward available. Woodland Park, Colorado. July 7, 2011. A man house-sitting for the friends winds up being the start to a homicide investigation. John Hogan, 25, a graduate from General William Mitchell High School, loved his friends and family. John would be house-sitting for people who lived on 335 Elk Lane. John would speak with his family on July 5, 2011. On July 7, John's family would not hear from him, and they would contact police to file a missing persons report. Police would head to the location where John was house-sitting and unfortunately find that John had passed. Initial reports did not state how, but detectives did state they were working a homicide investigation and asked for tips from the community. The following years, detectives would release new information about the case. John was found buried in a shallow grave located in the area of 335 Elk Lane. John is missed dearly by his friends and family who he shared his love with in abundance. John was helping someone and unfortunately lost his life in the process. Whoever did this to John must answer for their crimes. Help us get justice for John by submitting tips to Teller County Sheriff's Office. Colorado holds a population of 5.8 million as reported in 2021. According to U.S. News, Colorado ranks number 44 out of 50 in regards to public safety. Colorado's current unemployment rate sits at 3.2% for 2023, ranking 26 out of 50 in the U.S. Colorado, known for its picturesque views and abundance of beauty in nature, a place that still requires us to stay safe and informed. Together, the more that we know about our community, the better bond, the more we communicate, and the strength amongst us together can overpower anyone who thinks crime will transpire around us. Help us lift the voices of those that are no longer here with us, but their names, stories, and effect they've left on others lives forever. Thank you for watching By the Minute News. Be sure to subscribe and join us on our journey to bring awareness to more cases across the nation. Someone you know may be able to help us get justice. Until next time, stay safe.